If you clicked on this video, you're probably ready to set the stage for your next invitation in your life and your evolutionary process. But before you do that, there's a few things you want to know, because this process of ending the last thing and beginning the new one is something that goes on forever. So really getting good at this process is one of the most worthwhile things you can invest your energy in. In this video, I'm going to be going over some of the specifics of exactly what to do in order to set yourself up as well as you can to call in the next best thing in your life. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I help people to heal multidimensionally, and I help them to find the really difficult, tricky stuff that isn't often discovered. Before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm doing a few free breakthrough calls. There's a link pinned in the comment section below. A breakthrough call is a 30-minute call where we get on Zoom and I help you go over your vision for your life with you. So we look at what you want to create, and more importantly, we get into what's in the way of that happening, because it's usually what's stopping us, are the blocks. A lot of us can get kind of tired of healing. I don't know how long you've been healing or on like an awakening journey. It can get sort of annoying a little bit because it seems to be this endless thing. And the thing is, it is an endless thing. It is an endless thing. The thing, though, about the endless thing is the better you get, the more fun the cycles become. This sort of death, rebirth process is an ongoing thing in humanity and in the universe forever. Everything is cyclical. Everything goes kind of in a circle. Now, sometimes the frustrating part of this, and this is how it's been for me, is you can feel like you're looping in a circle, like you're repeating the same things over and over and over again, and you're not getting a lot of benefit out of them. And this is something that can happen. And when this happens, we can begin to develop a fear and an annoyance and an irritability with the evolutionary process, which can often lead to like existential crisis. Because some part of you knows this is how it is forever, and you hate the process, and therefore you're like, I don't want to exist anymore. I don't want to do any of this. I don't know how many people can relate, but this is one of the big issues I've struggled with. Because I have this, one of my friends one time called me a chronic phoenix. It's like I am always going through these major like deaths and rebirths, and that can wear the body out, and it can be a bit too much. And here's the caveat before I get into my tips. Holding on to anything is fear. Fear causes us to grasp to things, particularly to our past. And if you cling to the past too much, you repeat it. Now, the tricky thing to understand here is that when we go through massive trauma, we can develop this tendency to not want to let go of it because we don't want it to happen again. So it's almost like in an effort to make things better, we cling to the trauma, and a lot of people will just stuff it away and they don't look at it. But sometimes you can do the opposite, which is what I've been doing, is you start analyzing and analyzing and analyzing it, going deeply into it, into the healing process over and over and over again, and becoming obsessed with it in an effort to never have to repeat any of it. But again, energetically, what you're doing when you do that is you're holding on to that story and the trauma, and then you just start manifesting it again and again and again. And this comes, like I said, from fear and a lack of trust in ourselves. But it also comes from a lack of trust in our own ability to understand the process of transformation. There is no, so this leads me to my first tip. Okay. There is no end game. There's no like tangible result, goal, or mountaintop that you reach that is the end. And when you understand that, and not just intellectually understand it, deeply integrate that, you can begin to enjoy the process. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit why this can be very disappointing for many of us to hear. So one of the reasons is because we've been we're obsessed in our society with the goal, right? We're a goal-oriented society. We're obsessed with the result, and we are externally focused. So we believe that whatever we get out there is going to fix us. But on a deeper level, spiritually, for those of you waking up, for those of you who are kind of aware of your soul, one of the reasons this is so frustrating is because we were trapped, sort of, or we created an experience where we believed we were trapped in a matrix and we couldn't get out. And so what that did is it creates on a soul level like this goal to get out, and like there is an out, and that's the end. It's not the end. It's not the end of evolution. It's not the end of creation. It's not the end of anything. But it is sort of the end of you having completely forgotten who you were, and the story that we've been stuck kind of in a prison. It's important to really grasp that. There is no ultimate end, but you don't have to be going through these horribly traumatic cycles forever, getting seemingly nowhere, okay? So here's another tip to embrace your transformation process. Whatever cycle you're in, if it's ending, and again, it's always going to be ending and then beginning. That's why all you see all day, every day on Instagram is like, we're getting ready to let go of what no longer serves us and call in what does. Like, and we get stuck in this thing like, well, when's the good part gonna come? Like, when do I get rid of all the shit? And then it gets amazing. Well, again, never. But it gets better. So what you want to look at is how to end your cycles. You always want to end the cycle well, because ending the cycle well informs the beginning of the next cycle. And those moments right in between the death and the rebirth are very important because they inform what's coming next. So let's say you ended a relationship, or a relationship ended. That's fine. That's great. That's an end. That's the end of something. How did it end though? What was your part in it ending? Like, say you didn't end it very well. You flipped out, lost your shit, went crazy on somebody, said a bunch of stuff that you regret. That's all okay. You can't change that by going back and changing it. But what can you do now to resolve the energetic of that? Maybe make an apology. Maybe it's just a matter of going back to how you ended it and forgiving yourself for it energetically, so that you now have the perception of having released or harmonized something in yourself in a positive way. Always look at how you can take the high road in the end of the cycle, and be at peace. Make peace with whatever you did and whatever the cycle was, because again, there is no ending. You're never getting done with evolution. And when we accept that, a lot of stress and pressure releases. because so much of the pain comes from reaching and pulling ourselves into the future, not being in the moment, or trying to pull ourselves like one or two cycles down the road, which is what I've done. I've been trying to evolve so quickly that I'm like 3 cycles ahead, and that's because I've been so hard on myself, because I'm trying to get things perfect because I think there's an end, and because I'm trying to skip ahead and get out and get done, and I'm not in the journey. So be aware of this. Something else you can do is whatever happened, choose to have chosen it. Because on some level, you did. Now, I understand that, as human beings, things happen to us that are way out of our control, okay? Especially as children growing up in very difficult family systems. I totally get that. I'm not saying that we don't get victimized, and I'm not saying that things don't happen that we can't control, that aren't our fault. But on some level, some part of you chose it. Even if you chose something and you didn't know what the consequences were going to be, because we all get hung up there a lot. We're like, well, I chose this, but I didn't know this was going to happen. Well, that's part of the process. When you take responsibility for having chosen it, that gives you your power, which then gives you the ability to inform the next cycle in an empowered way, where you're not creating another cycle where you're feeling victimized and like life is happening to you. So choose to have chosen it. And you can also look at how you did choose it. Subconsciously, why did your soul choose it? Why did your higher self choose it? What did you learn from it? Etc. Another tip to understand is, sometimes you see the transformation and sometimes you don't. Now, this can be tricky because everything internal informs the external. But sometimes we have to go through 10 cycles internally before the external really shifts. But start to notice the internal differences that you see. This is something that I've had just drilled into my head for my whole life. For many years, I would just work internally, and not a lot would shift externally. I worked at, even on my singing voice, and I would notice these subtle differences in my body, and things opening up in like my rib cage or my diaphragm or my legs, all these little tiny like muscular motions forward, but my voice didn't really sound much better. But what it taught me to do was to really notice the micro improvements, because that's how all shifts occur. It's all these little tiny subtle adjustments, and eventually there's a big expansion. Sometimes at the end of a cycle you'll get that expansion, sometimes you won't, but know that a transformation has occurred. And the last tip just for today that I want to mention is, find the center of the experience. Find the center of the experience. It may have been a rough cycle. There may have been a lot of trauma. There may have been a lot of unearthing. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you lost your place. And what happens in a human nervous system, of course, when those things happen, is there's all these reactions. There's emotional reactions. There's somatic reactions. And some of those, until we're all masters, are unavoidable, because that's just how it is being human. But you can always seek to find the center, which is neutrality. And the biggest key to neutrality is knowing. It's knowing that whatever happened, it's not really positive or negative. It's really neither. And not attaching to the experience, not attaching to the thoughts, not attaching to the emotions, and not attaching to the experience to derive your self-worth. You're the being in the middle. You're not the thoughts. You're not the emotions. You're not the experience. You're the being in the center, behind it. One of the biggest things that causes us to lose our center is some of it's money. I mean, a lot of it's money because if we have more money, you know, we have a better time surviving and we have more leverage. But the other big, huge thing, and this is, I'll cover in another video, but I'll cover it briefly here, is status, fame, and power. Because we perceive status, we perceive being famous, we perceive power to look a certain way. And that's what we all think we want because we believe that's what will make us lovable. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And you can't get this till you get it. You're not going to get it from someone just telling you, but it really doesn't. So understanding that you don't just have one life. Maybe you've been famous and powerful before. It doesn't matter. The acknowledgement and the validation you're looking for can be found within, and it can be found for anything. One of the biggest things that I've derived validation from in this life so far has been perseverance. Because I wanted external validation so bad for so long, and I didn't really get it in the way that I wanted. I still have it. You know, I did get it a little, but not the way I've ever thought I wanted it. But as things would keep like coming up and breaking down and being difficult and difficult and difficult, and I would just keep going, it started to build a confidence in me for being able to keep on going. There's validation in perseverance. There's validation in resilience. And again, going back to the beginning of this video, that the cycles go on forever. In a way, that's the only thing and maybe one of the best things you can be validated for. But you have to do it for yourself. So keep going and keep honoring yourself for keeping going. I hope that helps. My name is Adam again. Thank you so much for watching this video. I have a free energy clearing in the description below if you're interested. It helps clear a lot of deep-seated blocks. Other than that, I look forward to next time. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.